First, fast, accurate. You're watching WSBT 22 First in the Morning with Bob Montgomery and Leanne Tokars.
5:31 now, and the race to the White House is not over yet. There are still votes being counted in key states.
Yeah, and in breaking news at this point, it is still too close to call. President Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden both expressing confidence overnight. WSBT 22's Kristen Bean is at the live desk this morning. And Kristen, this presidential race is coming down to, as predicted, just a handful of very key states.
Because of the unprecedented number of mail-ins and early votes, there are still votes being counted in key states like Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. This is what we have so far. Our numbers in states called come from the Associated Press, which is why you may see a discrepancy with other numbers being reported by other outlets. Right now, the states in gray are still undecided. The Associated Press had listed Wisconsin as leaning toward Trump until just a few minutes ago. 95% of that state reporting results right now, with mail-in votes in some metro areas still left to be counted. The race could be called soon. Some states like Pennsylvania allow mail-in votes to be accepted after Election Day as long as they were postmarked by Tuesday. Those may take a couple days. In Georgia, a water main break at a large arena delayed counting. Workers will resume counting those there this morning. President Trump claiming victories in key states that are still counting votes, like Georgia. Biden said the election isn't over yet. The AP actually called Arizona's race for Biden, a state that the president carried in 2016.
This is a very big moment. This is a major fraud in our nation. We want the law to be used in a proper manner. So we'll be going to the U.S. Supreme Court. We want all voting to stop. We don't want them to find any ballots at 4 o'clock in the morning and add them to the list.
Your patience is commendable. We knew this was going to go long, but who knew we're going to go into maybe tomorrow morning, maybe even longer. But look, we feel good about where we are. We really do. I'm here to tell you tonight, we believe we're on track to win this election.
Now, there are paths to victory for both candidates, but they will rely in large part on those swing states in the upper Midwest, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. We are watching the numbers very closely this morning. In fact, the race in Wisconsin could be called soon. I'll be updating you every half hour and breaking in both here on WSBT and on Fox Michiana as we learn more. At the live desk, I'm Kristen Bean, WSBT 22 News.
Starting out this morning on a much warmer note across our area, we're looking at temperatures close to 50 degrees for our start. That's nearly double what we had on Monday morning. Monday we had 20s, yesterday we had 30s, today we have 40s and 50s, and this is going to feel pretty good. So if last couple of mornings you've been grabbing the gloves and the hat, you don't need that today. We do have some 40s, 49 in Lakeville. It's 48 right now in Rolling Prairie, 47 in LaPorte. We still have a few spots in the low 40s. Occasionally we have a couple of them showing up. You can see 45 in Middlebury and 43 in Shipshewana. So again, it's cool enough for a jacket, but we're going to go from these 40s this morning. That sun's going to come up. It's going to heat us up quickly, and we should be already near 60 degrees by lunchtime. So first couple of hours, upper 40s, low 50s, getting kids to school, that kind of time frame, it will be cool. And then 56 at 10 o'clock, great time for a nice morning walk. It's still cool, but we're still looking at a nice quiet morning. And then high temperatures today will be between 65 and 70. Look at all these 70s off to our west. We're going to talk about when those 70s start to show up. That's coming up in just a few minutes.
Gary, thank you. We continue our election results this morning with a potential upset in the U.S. Senate race in Michigan.
Republican challenger John James now has a 6% lead right now over Democratic incumbent Gary Peters. Roughly 80% of the vote has now been counted. James leads by about 250,000 votes out of over 4 million counted so far.
Now, Democrats hope to break the grip the Republicans have over Indiana's state government, but fell short this time around. In
the most contested statewide race on this year's ballot, Indiana has a new attorney general. Todd Rokita beating out Democratic challenger Jonathan Weinzapfel, but taking about 60% of the vote. Rokita campaigned on job creation and recovering the state's economy. He narrowly defeated the current Republican Attorney General Curtis Hill in the state convention this past July. Rokita learned the news of his win while he was under quarantine at his home with his family. The news broke that he had tested positive for the coronavirus yesterday after developing symptoms.
From the most contested to the biggest statewide race on the ballot for Hoosiers this year, Indiana will move into the new year with its current governor. Governor Eric Holcomb handedly wins a second term with 58% of the vote. The incumbent Republican beat out Democratic Dr. Woody Myers and Libertarian Donald Rainwater. WSBT 22's Dane Murray explains these results came in early in the night.
The race was called about an hour after polls closed in Indiana. In a historically red state, the Republicans will now hold power of the governor's office for 2 full decades. Despite some criticism over his handling of the coronavirus, it seems most Hoosiers think Governor Holcomb is doing a good job. His Back on Track plan put Hoosiers back to work early on in the pandemic. While masks were mandated and social distancing was required, businesses were allowed to operate at full capacity by the end of September. This was all despite rising numbers of coronavirus cases. He sidestepped any criticism of President Trump, even as he issued that statewide mask mandate back in July. Some conservatives called his actions excessive and said they were backing third-party candidate Donald Rainwater. Their challenger, Democrat Dr. Woody Myers, called Holcomb's mask order a, quote, suggestion, saying it doesn't go far enough. The three debated twice virtually last month, where they touched on many different topics. One thing that they all agreed on: more needs to be done at the state level to address racial disparities. Reporting in the newsroom, Dane Murray, WSBT 22 News.
Dane, thank you. Our team coverage continues on Indiana's 2nd District congressional race with Congresswoman Jackie Walorski on her way to a significant victory. Right now, Walorski has 65% of the vote over Democrat challenger Pat Hackett. WSBT 22's Caroline Torrey has been following this race for weeks. Congresswoman Walorski is also declaring victory.
She says the vote count isn't complete yet, but she doesn't think her opponent, Pat Hackett, will have a chance to close the gap. I spoke with Pat Hackett after the polls closed. She says the voter turnout and her supporters are the basis for hope in this country, but she's critical about the Congresswoman's leadership over the last 4 terms. Walorski also says she's grateful for the big voter response. She says her record shows that she works to take care of Hoosiers, and the voters came out to support her.
Americans are at the table. Americans are deciding big decisions tonight and where we're going in the next 4 years. And I think it's really important. I couldn't be more thrilled about the turnout. Record numbers all over, including our district.
If she wins this election, must begin representing the people of this district. She has to step away from the outside financial interests that she's been representing for years.
With the full tally not in quite yet, I asked both candidates about the reliability of mail-in voting. Pat Hackett says it's, quote, very reliable, and Congresswoman Walorski said that she wants every vote counted. In Mishawaka, I'm Caroline Torrey, WSBT 22 News.
Caroline, thank you. Incumbent Republican Fred Upton declaring victory for Michigan's 6th District. Congressman Fred Upton currently has 58% of the vote over his Democratic challenger. This win will mark his 18th term in office.
There are 2 St. Joseph County Commissioner seats up for grabs, or were. WSBT 22's Caitlin Connon speaking to the candidates in the race for Districts 2 and 3.
In District 2, Democrat Oliver Davis and Republican Derek Dieter are both trying to take home a win. District 2 has been Democrat since 2008 when Dave Thomas was in office. Dieter and Davis both have similar goals. They want to improve the county 911 center and transparency between elected officials and constituents, especially when it comes to the Indiana Enterprise Center. Both feel residents weren't properly consulted about the project. In District 3, Hodge Patel is hoping to flip the district blue. Incumbent Republican Deb Fleming has held that seat for about 6 years. Fleming says she wants to build on the momentum she started in office, including making updates to various county departments and improving energy efficiency in buildings. She and Patel both want to build job growth, and Patel says he wants to be more accessible to voters than he says Fleming has been. So far, Dieter is beating Davis in District 2 and Fleming is beating Patel in District 3. I'm still waiting for official results for both of those races. I'll update you on air and online. In South Bend, Caitlin Connon, WSBT 22 News.
Caitlin, thank you. Election officials across the county will continue counting absentee ballots today after they finished counting all ballots cast yesterday late last night. WSBT 22's Max Lewis explains the process and how long it will take in St. Joseph County.
More than 90% of walk-in absentee ballots were counted yesterday and reported last night. They've still got about 3,000 more walk-in absentee ballots, and that counting will start later this morning. And they haven't even gotten to the 25,000 mail-in absentee ballots. That counting will start after they finish counting the walk-in absentee ballots. The ballots cast yesterday started arriving at the county city building around 7 o'clock last night. Election officials went through each bag and processed the provisional ballots, and then got the flash drives with the election data and tabulated that. The absentee ballot counters will be here later this morning to continue processing the rest of the absentee ballots. The whole thing is expected to take possibly the rest of this week. In South Bend, I'm Max Lewis, WSBT 22 News.
All right, Max, thanks very much. Stay with WSBT 22 all through the morning for continuing coverage of the results as they come in from yesterday's election. We will update you as these results come in, both on air and online.
5:41 now. Our coverage of the 2020 election continues. Still ahead, an update on the representation in the House and the Senate.
And parents, listen to this one. Coming up next, new numbers show why you should make sure your children are following coronavirus precautions.
And this morning, we have a great start to our day. It's actually a little bit warmer, and we're still going to talk about that sunshine coming up next.
First, fast, accurate. You're watching WSBT 22 News at 11 with Todd Connor and Dane Murray.
Voters headed to the polls today in record numbers to cast their ballots in the historic 2020 election. Right now, election officials are busy counting those ballots. In the presidential race, there are predictable victories for each candidate, with President Trump taking states like Indiana. Biden's victories include New York, Illinois, and Virginia. It's too early to call in Florida, Georgia, and Pennsylvania. That's because counting of absentee ballots could extend into the rest of the week for some of these states.
That's right, and the counting has been halted for the night in St. Joseph County. WSBT 22's Max Lewis is live at the county city building for us tonight, and he begins our team coverage there. So, Max, when you look at the counting, how much is left to do for workers there?
So, Jennifer, as far as tonight goes, they have officially counted all 42 vote centers. In our 10 o'clock shot, you saw that they were doing a recount on 2 vote centers. They figured out the issues with that. More than 90% of the walk-in absentee ballots have been counted, and those results are currently being reported. Now, they still have more than 3,000 walk-in absentee ballots to count, and that will begin tomorrow morning. They haven't even gotten to the more than 25,000 mail-in absentee ballots, and that will start after they finish counting the walk-in absentee. Now, the ballots that were cast today started arriving here around 7 o'clock tonight, and the last bag didn't get here till around 8:30. They have to go through each bag, process the provisional ballots, and then get the flash drives with the election data and tabulate that. They're then putting that information into the computer to be reported out to all of us. So the counting of the rest of those absentee ballots, almost 30,000 absentee ballots, will start tomorrow morning, and that whole entire process is expected to take possibly a couple more days. For now, I'm live in South Bend. Max Lewis, WSBT 22 News.
Max, thank you. Lines were also long at some Michigan polling places late into the evening.
Certainly was. WSBT 22's Lauren Becker continues our team coverage tonight from Edwardsburg. Lauren, one of the precincts there had very long lines for most of the day.
Jennifer, the Ontwa Township Hall in Edwardsburg had long lines until about 8:45 tonight. That's about 45 minutes after the polls closed. The line stretched all the way out to the road from the parking lot, and everyone in line before 8 was still able to cast their ballot. Now, other precincts like St. Paul's Lutheran Church in Niles only saw a line in the morning. Although they didn't have long lines, they did have this tent set up in the parking lot, causing controversy. It says, "Recall Governor Whitmer," a group working to remove her from office by collecting signatures on a petition. The group says they were more than 100 feet from the entrance, making it legal. There was light turnout here, again a stark contrast to the Ontwa Township Hall in Edwardsburg, where people waited for hours.
I don't know, it's been really busy. Yeah. You know, I thought that, I heard earlier that there was 100 million people that voted early. And I thought, man, 100 million people, it shouldn't be that bad of a line when I come down here. And it was bad.
Now, millions of voters across Michigan chose to vote absentee this year. It's unclear how long it will take to count all of these absentee ballots, but the Berrien County Clerk tells me they'll take as long as they need to get it all done. Live in Edwardsburg tonight, Lauren Becker, WSBT 22 News.